I have some controversial opinions, and I hope y'all still like me after I have these controversial opinions. The first episode focuses mainly on Gypsy getting out of prison, which again, the footage that they did show, they already showed in prison confessions and most of the trailers for Life After Lockup. It was kind of lame or whatever, but they do get back to the hotel. And there's that super awkward scene that I've been talking about for the longest time between Gypsy and Ryan, where Ryan is in her bubble and she's like, I just want to be.
You look so good.
I just want to just be right now.
Right,
I'm just
you
kind
want
of
me to
being.
leave you be?
No, I don't want you to leave. I'm trying to process.
Okay.
But it was very awkward. I also see the situation between her and Ryan quite a bit differently than other people do. Now, what you have to keep in mind is the editing of this, okay? Right? And talked about how Ryan was controlling, how Ryan reminded her of her mother. And so it is my belief that Lifetime edited these episodes to reflect that. Now, don't get me wrong, Ryan is cringy as on his own. I think he's creepy. I do not think he's controlling. It is actually Gypsy who, in my opinion, is controlling. And here's why I think that. When you really watch their body language, it's not so much what's coming out of their mouths. And then you go back and you look at pictures with Gypsy and Dee Dee. The roles have switched. The way that Ryan and Gypsy hold hands is Gypsy holds Ryan's hand the way that Dee Dee used to hold hers. There are multiple interviews like this. There are multiple times where you can see in the interview that Gypsy is squeezing Ryan's hand when he says something.
It's hard to do, but you can do it.
Oh, I went from 19 to 32. Jeez, God, I got old so quick. How did that happen?
You never went to school either.
Mm-hmm. It's Gypsy who's running the show. And I think what's happened is Ryan expected something different. 100%. So, anywho, Gypsy gets out of prison and Ryan is essentially the scapegoat because it will flash to talking head interviews with Christy and with Rod, and they're talking, and Mia, and they're all, well, Gypsy has a family, blah, blah, blah. Look, I'm going to tell y'all how it is. The truth of the matter is Gypsy never wanted to move in with Rod and Christy. Initially, when she was dating Ken, the plan was they were going to get married. They were engaged. They were booed up. It was all sunshine, lollipops, and rainbows, right? And she was going to marry him while she was in prison. She was going to parole. She was always going to parole to Louisiana. But let's be honest, Ken is from Texas, and Texas and Louisiana are neighbor states. It ain't that big of a deal. And he's already relocated to Louisiana anyhow, which is what the plan was to begin with. So Ryan's just basically a pawn in all of this. When Gypsy and Ken broke up, and then Ryan started to write Gypsy, he looked good on paper. And I personally believe that when she met him in person, she thought, this dude is an all-day sucker. And he is going to be wrapped around my finger, which he was and still is. So he looks good on paper. He's local to Louisiana. That he checked that box. He can be controlled, checked another box. She is making him look like a chump all over social media. So when she got paroled, because there are letters out there where she talks about this, I have been stressed out over here. My parents control my finances, all my money, and they are basically withholding my money until they feel comfortable enough with trusting me with it. They are afraid if I get divorced from Ryan that he gets 50% of my assets, so they want to wait and see how Ryan and I work on the outside of prison. Only then will they allow me to access my trust fund account. I understand my father wants to protect me from a messy divorce if that were to happen. However, I am more focused on trying to create a life with my husband than prepping for the worst. Right? Because this is what Gypsy is infamous for. She plays both ends against the middle. And I've really been thinking about this and watching things from the past. So, you know that picture of Gypsy and Nick that is at the that's at the movie theater? That's not the only picture. The one that's an extreme close up. That picture is actually the original picture is a little farther away. It's been cropped, but it is not a selfie. So who took that picture? Dee Dee. I don't think that Dee Dee felt about Nick quite how Gypsy is saying she did, to be quite frank with you. I don't think that she ever saw Nick as a legitimate threat to taking Gypsy away. He lives states away. And I think having Dee Dee knew Dan. And I think after meeting Nick, I think she was like, this ain't going fucking no place. But anyway, so this is what Gypsy does. She plays both ends against the middle. So while she's, passively saying to Christy and Rod, well, I just want this to work, this relationship, this marriage, blah, 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 that it is what it is. Okay. So that's basically episode 1. Ryan being, talking about it's hot up in Missouri. Oh, and let me just say this. I forgot about this part. So we get to, they get over to the Airbnb where the family is at, and Gypsy has a whole meltdown because there is a miscommunication between who actually can tell her what the fuck she can and cannot do. And at the end of the day, I don't know if she just wasn't paying attention or it wasn't explained to her correctly, but Missouri will always have final say over Gypsy Rose Blanchard until she serves the term of her parole. Point blank, period. That is where the crime was committed. That is who paroled her. They allowed her to parole to Louisiana and be supervised there. But the bottom line is Missouri will always have the final say. They're the ones that are in control. Now, she has a whole meltdown, and here comes Mike Stanfield. Did y'all listen to what he actually said? He doesn't represent her currently. In that moment, he didn't. He said, I represented Gypsy during her criminal trial when he's talking to the parole office. She didn't check in correctly. She did not clear it with Missouri. Again, Missouri doesn't want to do with Gypsy. She made it known publicly because she had people before she was paroled. She had people who put things out on social media on her behalf, which is how we all find out about her wanting to meet Taylor Swift. And Missouri was like, hell no. We don't want none of that. Get the out of here. Get behind me, Satan. That's what they said. So she has this whole meltdown. It's lame. Then they leave. It is what it is. Ryan's concerned about people following, blah, blah, blah. It's very boring.